There's a name for the gap between how big a task actually is and how big it feels the moment before you start. I call it the initiation tax. It's not the cost of doing the task, it's the toll charged at the door before you've done anything. And that toll gets calculated by a completely different part of your brain than the one that will actually do the work. This matters because most of us try to negotiate with the tax using logic. It's only 5 minutes, just do it. When the tax isn't a logic problem, it's a threshold problem. Here's the version of this I got wrong for a long time. I thought the fix for resistance was more planning. So I'd break a task into steps, then sub-steps, then a checklist for the checklist. What I was actually doing was adding decision points, not removing them. Every extra step I added was one more toll booth. I was building more gates. If you've ever had a to-do list that felt heavier the more organized it got, that's not you being bad at planning. That's the tax disguised as productivity. Quick, useful tangent before the taxonomy, because this is exactly the moment people usually reach for more willpower instead of more clarity. If you're someone who adds steps instead of removing them, that's usually a sign you're not actually stuck on the action. You're stuck on an unresolved decision sitting upstream of it. That's what Daily Clarity Doors is built around. You log the decision you're actually facing, and the decision scale gives you a weighted breakdown of the pros, cons, and whether you're facing a real trade-off or just spinning in place. There's a weekly review that shows you your own hesitation patterns over time and a record of past decisions, which matters more than it sounds, because most overthinkers underestimate how much they've already handled correctly. It's free to try. Links below if you want to see where your own initiation tax is actually coming from. The tax isn't one thing. There are at least 4 versions of it, and they respond to completely different fixes. The switching tax. This is attention residue, a term from organizational researcher Sophie Leroy. When you move to a new task, before finishing the last one, part of your attention stays behind. The new task doesn't feel heavy because of what it is. It feels heavy because of what you just left. If you open a document right after closing a stressful email thread, the email is the weight, not the document. The ambiguity tax. A task without a defined first physical motion stays open in your mind the way an unfinished sentence does. This is the old Zeigarnik effect from the 1920s. The brain holds unresolved things active longer than resolved ones. Work on the presentation stays open indefinitely. Open slide 1 and write the title closes the loop the second you do it. The evaluation tax. This one isn't about effort at all. It's about identity risk. Sending a pitch that could be rejected, posting something that could be criticized. Your brain files that under social threat, not workload. That's why a 2-minute email can feel harder than a 2-hour task with no audience. The depletion tax. Before you do the actual thing, you often have to resolve several small decisions first. What to make, where to start, which version. Deciding costs something, similar to the exhaustion research around self-control. Note that research has had a rocky decade of replication attempts, so treat it as one plausible mechanism, not settled fact, but the pattern holds up anecdotally. By the time you've made 5 micro decisions, you have less left for the actual task. 2 honest limits, because a framework that explains everything is usually hiding something. First, this breaks down when the task is genuinely large. Shrinking a task that actually requires real skill, time, or preparation, a negotiation, a diagnosis, a redesign, down to just send 1 line doesn't lower the tax. It produces under preparation wearing the costume of momentum. Second, this breaks down when your hesitation is accurate, not inflated. If you're avoiding a conversation that would end a relationship or a job, that's not a distorted tax. That's correct anticipation of a real consequence. Just start small is the wrong tool for a signal that's telling you something true. 4 questions, 1 per type before you decide what you're actually dealing with. Switching. Did I just come from a task that's still running in the back of my mind? Ambiguity. Do I know the literal first physical motion of this, or only the outcome I want? Evaluation. Am I delaying this because it's effortful, or because someone could judge the result? Depletion. How many small decisions do I have to make before I even begin? If you want a low-stakes way to start noticing your own pattern, I built a free 3-day workbook, Daily Micro Decisions for Introverts. It's built around the same distinction, naming the actual next physical action instead of the outcome, so you can see which tax you're paying before you try to fix it with more effort. Links in the description. And if today's video answered why the action feels big, next time is about the other side of it, what it actually looks like when you shrink an act of courage down to the smallest version that still counts as brave.